Hey, brother, there's an endless road to rediscover. 3, hey.
So I'm Kasey Bradbury, and I've been teaching at Bountiful Junior for 9 years, and I've been teaching junior high for 16 years. I'm currently the choir director and guitar and musical theater and music exploration, and I'm missing something, character education. I teach all those classes. Music has been a part of my life, honestly I can say forever. My mom was a music teacher. So all of my siblings and I were musical. I started voice lessons when I was in high school, and that just became my passion. Home is in Wisconsin. I'm just south of Milwaukee in Racine. My husband is from Utah, and he went to law school in Indiana. And I started my career in Middlebury, Indiana, in a beautiful Amish community. When I was in Indiana, it was a very safe community to start. When I taught in Alexandria, Virginia, we had a very different group of students, and we had a demographic that struggled with gang violence, they struggled with drug addiction. It was a really tough community. And so I had a group of students who were resistant to me coming in at first. And I remember the day when somebody said to me, I finally just said, why? Why do you hate me so much? And they said, you don't know us. You don't care. You don't really care. And that changed everything in my teaching. Everything. And then I had to get to know these kids in order to figure out what they actually needed. And then figuring out how I could transform my teaching from there. So the kids would know, she's here for me and I will help them through anything. I just started kind of listening, and I would overhear things in the hallways, or I'd overhear things when the kids would come in. And I'm like, oh, you enjoy this type of music. Hey, let's talk about this. Or, hey, I love this type of music. Have you heard of, like so-and-so? I remember the first time we did a Michael Jackson song in a concert, and oh my goodness, it won those kids over. And it was, okay, we're onto something here. My way of reaching out to each of the individual kids is, again, finding where they're at. And then I get to talk to the kids, and I get to encourage them, and I get to say, hey, let's focus on this today. Do you know what? You were doing amazing with your high notes. Now let's focus on this. The style that I use for teaching is definitely one of structure and love. It's the structure, and then it's high expectations for the kids. It's helping them realize that they can achieve something great and that their individual contribution will help the overall success of the entire group. That's why I think a lot of kids have thrived in my classroom, is because I provide that structure for them. There's a consistency in there. They know what to expect, and it's helped immensely. The students that I've taught in Indiana, in Virginia, in Utah, for all of them, I've tried to create a safe space in which they know that if they come to me for something, they're going to be listened to without judgment, and they're going to be loved. Here especially, our students struggle with mental health, and it's a challenging thing to deal with as a teacher when you're trying to figure out, how do I help you? I'm not an expert. What do I do? But the one thing that I can do for kids is I can help get them to the right people. And we have amazing counselors that can help kind of steer them where they need to go. When you see kids who are really disconnected at the start of a class, you know that there's something that's up. And there's times that we will stop class and we'll say, okay, tell me what's happening. And one day it might just be, I think we all just failed a math test. Or we have a science test coming up and nobody feels prepared for it and we don't know what to do. They can't focus when that's looming over them. And so if we can't address what's going on outside, we can't make things work really well on the inside of our classroom. One of the things I did recently, I felt very strongly that I had to write to all of my students. And so there were 300 plus students that I felt the need to write to. And so I wrote an email and I copied the parents on it, so the parents were part of that communication as well. And the overarching theme was, you are valued and you're appreciated. When you have kids who write back to you and say, again, I felt invisible and I just felt like I kind of went through the year and nobody really noticed me, but you do, and I appreciate that more than you know. Or parents who will write back and say, I didn't know my kid, I didn't see my child in that light. I've been seeing them in a very different light at home. And so when they realize, wow, this is what my kid is doing, like that's kind of, it's an incredible thing. There was a time just last year that a student came to me. I actually should back up, and the student was different. She was acting differently than she had before, and it became concerning, like extremely concerning to me. So I brought her name, to the counselors and tried to figure out what can we do. Well, it wasn't long after that this same girl and her friend kind of held her by the hand and pulled her into my room. And the friend said, we need to talk to you. And they closed my door. The student herself finally just looked at me and she just said, I want to kill myself. it's moments like that that you struggle as a teacher, because your teacher heart and your mom heart they kind of collide together. You just want to wrap this kid up in a hug and just tell them how much you love them. And I looked at her and just said, I am so proud of you for talking to me. And I addressed the friend and I said, I'm so proud of you for loving this friend so much that she knew that she could talk to you as well. So we made a plan that we walked down the counselor. She wanted me to go with her. She wanted me in the room with her and the counselor. And it was an amazing experience, because it's given me the ability to talk to a student and hear something that hard and say, I love you and I care about you. Now let's get you help. I love these kids and I want them to know that. I want them to feel empowered to go out into the world and to be able to say, I can make a difference. I want them to be able to learn what it's like to have success as a team, and to be able to say, what I learned in choir can be transferred to anything else that I'm doing. I think that teaching is it's an amazing profession. And it's one that I think sometimes is kind of looked down on. And I think that people just don't understand what goes into teaching, into a full day of it, into one class period of teaching, and the concerns that we have about the kids and what we're trying to do to connect with them and relate with them and help them in every way, shape, and form. It's a very daunting thing, but again, it's such a worthwhile and worthy cause. There have been so many moments where I have thought, it almost doesn't seem fair when some people hate their jobs, and I thought, this is exciting, like every single day. And honestly, in 16 years, there have only been a handful of days when I just thought, I don't want to go to work today. And I'm glad that I can say that. And I think we all have those moments, but I'm really glad that the majority of my days are spent saying, okay, let's go, let's do this. There have been so many times in concerts where all of a sudden, like, it just feels like there's such an energy there that it's like you could just chop it with a knife. It's amazing to see the kids, transform to this place that they didn't think they were capable of going. And so sometimes it's in a concert setting, but usually it's in a rehearsal setting. And the coolest thing ever is seeing the kids all of a sudden erupt into cheers, because it's such an amazing, unifying type of experience. I do feel fortunate to be able to have that. And I'm glad when the kids realize it as well, that it's not just me having those just totally geeky moments. When the kids buy into it as well and say, I felt that was different. And then we recognize, well, what was it? And then we can keep, perpetuating that and moving on from there. It's really amazing. I am Kasey Bradbury, and I teach.